Chapter 6, Front Derailleur Height.
Now we're going to talk about adjustments to the front derailleur. Many people tend to think that the front derailleur is an easier adjustment or that the rear derailleur is more difficult. The front derailleur actually has more degrees of freedom or adjustments than the rear does. And even if you think your front derailleur is working really well, take a look at the adjustments in detail because it's very possible it's never been optimally set up. We're going to start our discussion of the front derailleur by examining the correct height adjustment.
We will discuss how to determine the proper height for the front derailleur and how to set the proper height.
This first adjustment, which happens to be the only one I can do with the chain off the bike, adjusts the height of the derailleur, how high the derailleur cage is from the chain rings. There is a clamp here which allows me to adjust the height of the derailleur. And by loosening this little bolt here, I can move the derailleur up and down on the seat tube. To position the derailleur accurately, I want to have the derailleur as low as possible so that the cage here has the maximum control over the positioning of the chain. And the ideal height for the derailleur is that when you shift the bike and the derailleur cage, the outer plate of the derailleur cage passes over the big chain ring, I want this to be low enough that it just clears over the big chain ring by 1 or 2 millimeters. Now, if I observe this derailleur here, it looks to me like it's a little bit too high. It came from the factory that way. That's very common. So I'm going to move it down just a little bit by loosening the bolt up here on the clamp and then moving the derailleur down. I've loosened my clamp. I'm going to just move the derailleur down just a little bit, sort of an approximation move here till I tighten the clamp and pull the cable. I won't know if I've got it right or not. Let's try that. Tighten that bolt just a little bit, snug it, and okay, I like that height there. I've moved my derailleur down from what it was originally. Now, on rare instances, you can't do this because not only do I have the front plate of the derailleur cage, I also have a back plate, and on some bikes, when you move the derailleur down low enough to optimally position the front plate with respect to the big chain ring, the back plate will hit the inner chain ring. That is unlikely to happen in most cases, but sometimes it does. Usually you can optimally adjust the height as I've just shown you. Okay, now I put a little piece of paper behind the derailleur here just so you can see a little bit better perhaps. Right here the cage is behind the chain ring. Right here is where it's crossing over the top of it. And this is the little distance right in here. The closest tooth is this one here. And I've tried to adjust that so I have a height of about 1 or 2 millimeters. Now I've moved the derailleur down by loosening the clamp. I've moved it down probably almost 2 millimeters, which is actually an appreciable amount. And that can make a difference in how well the derailleur works. By the way, when you're doing this adjustment, you always want to have released the cable on the front derailleur so there's not tension on the cable. Otherwise, when you loosen the bolt, it can pull the derailleur down just because of the tension on the cable.
Some front derailleurs go into a bracket like this, which is permanently part of the bike, and the derailleur is clamped in place with that bolt. If you loosen that bolt, you have some amount of up and down as well as back and forth motion of the derailleur that you can use to adjust the height and angle. After I have loosened this bolt and positioned my derailleur and then I retighten the bolt, sometimes the derailleur moves slightly when I retighten the bolt, and therefore there's sometimes a little bit of trial and error before you get this exactly the way you want it. There are actually 4 different designs of a front derailleur depending on what's known as the pull and the swing. Fortunately, this doesn't have too much to do with how you adjust them, but you should still know the difference. If the cable connects from the handlebars to the derailleur by going along the top tube and then down, we call that a top pull derailleur. On the other hand, if it goes along the down tube and then up, we call that bottom pull. And then there are two ways the derailleur can swing. With this derailleur, this is the clamp, and the derailleur swings back and forth below the clamp, so this is called bottom swing. With this one, here is the clamp, and the derailleur swings back and forth above the clamp, so this is called top swing. So the four combinations we get are top pull bottom swing, top pull top swing, bottom pull bottom swing, and bottom pull top swing. The type of derailleur that's going to be used on a bike is something that the engineers decide when they're designing the bike, but the adjustment mechanisms are the same. And if you don't even know what kind of derailleur you have, it's really not an issue unless you need to replace it, in which case you want to get one that is the same design.